The drought is over here in Ohio, and on its heels we've gotten heavy rains with possible flooding. It's forced us to slow down and stay indoors more, which isn't a bad thing since it's high time to start homeschool and establish some new routines. As sad as it is to say goodbye to summer and all the garden abundance, I know I could never keep up with the spring and summer pace for an entire year without burning out. I desperately need those colder months to make me slow down, focus on my kids' education, and recharge and rest. I actually find it amusing when people around me start lamenting that summer is over, because for me, fall and winter are a much anticipated break. Having said that though, the adjustment between seasons is always hard. I walk around the house aimlessly for a few days before figuring out what to do with myself outside of my garden. So while there's definitely struggles that come with colder weather, I do actually love it. I can't say the same for Cody though, but I'll let him speak for himself. This summer, my kids were begging for a soft sandwich bread for like peanut butter and jellies and stuff like that. They did really like the sourdough bowls that I used to make like the crusty loaves, but especially the toddler had a hard time like chewing the crust. So I decided to try out a new recipe to see if I could get sourdough bread to work really well just in loaf pans. I came across the recipe from the blog Amber's Kitchen for sourdough sandwich bread, and it's so good and it's so easy. So I've been making that quite a bit lately. It doesn't have any stretch and folds, so it's really, really easy. And it just turns out nice and soft. I make about 6 of these loaves every week. I'm currently making this bread with half whole wheat and then half of a organic unbleached bread flour. This just makes so that the bread is a little bit softer, not quite so messy and crumbly for the kids when they're eating their sandwiches. You could definitely make this with all whole wheat though. Another thing that I love about this bread is that it's completely done in one day. It doesn't need to sit in the fridge overnight. I can just do the whole thing in one day. I mix it in the morning with starter that's active, and by afternoon it's ready to shape and put into loaf pans, and then I can have fresh bread by supper time in the evening.
For Michelle, winter is about cozy days and tea and doing puzzles, a break from the garden. She still has a lot of work to do, not downplaying that at all. For me, it's a little bit different. I do love the romantic parts about winter, the snow. I get to go snowboarding every once in a while, once or twice. But for me, it's about the extra work on the homestead in the winter. The animals just feels like they kind of take care of themselves. They eat grass, they drink water. In the winter, they need extra shelter, they need hay. The water gets frozen, it's muddy around here. I do want to work on getting some things a little more streamlined this winter. Thinking about getting an electric water thing to keep the water from getting frozen all the time. I'm just put off doing that because I haven't really felt like it's necessary, but it would be really nice. I think there's also another part of winter that we need to address. The holidays are coming, which for some is the most exciting part of the year. For some, it's the hardest part of the year. For me, my mom passed away 6 years ago. She was only 49 years old. She had cancer. She loved the holidays. Christmas was her absolute favorite. She went all out every year. She passed that love of the holidays on to us kids, and the rest of my family is still around. We celebrate together, we have a lot of fun. But we do really miss her when Christmas is around. For Michelle, even though she loves the coziness of winter, as the winter drags on, she often deals with SAD. Ohio is very dreary in the winter. We don't see the sun very often, and it can just get really, really long. Point being, winter can be a struggle for any of us, and sometimes it can be rough to try to work through some of that on our own. Michelle and I have gone through multiple rounds of counseling and therapy over the years to get help with some of our struggles. We believe that it can be beneficial for anybody. The sponsor of today's video is BetterHelp. It's online-based therapy, which means you can talk to a licensed therapist via phone call, video chat, messaging. It's very convenient and it's so simple to get started. You just go to their site, fill out a questionnaire, and they'll match you with a therapist in as little as a couple days. And if something ends up not working out with the therapist you were matched with, you can always switch. There have been a lot of rumors floating around about BetterHelp, but let me just say that my experience with them was all good and helpful, and we want to see others get help as well. That's a lot of the point of our channel. We had some real struggles in the first years of our homesteading, and we want to help others avoid that. And besides myself, BetterHelp has helped over 4 million people, and their high reviews really speak to how much they're helping people. And if you still have questions, we'll leave a couple links in the description to articles that address some of the concerns that people have had. If you want to go ahead and get started, you can use our link betterhelp.com/morethanfarmers, or choose our channel at sign up for 10% off your first month of therapy.
I'm trying to get back into some of the routines that I just completely let slip while I was gardening and stuff. We had so many fresh greens and fresh foods coming in from the garden regularly that I quit doing my sprouts. So many of you probably remember I did broccoli sprouts last winter. Another routine that I have going right now every morning while I'm making breakfast is I rinse my sprouts. My nutritionalist told me that they're very good for hormone regulation. I'm doing broccoli seeds and alfalfa seeds. My kids thought that the broccoli sprouts were a little bit spicy. So I just decided to do some alfalfa for them, and they really like those. Sprouting is one of those things that's crazy unintimidating. It's so easy. All that you do is on day one, you soak your seeds for a few hours in water, and then you pour the water off, rinse them, and every day thereafter for like 5 days, you just pour some water in here, rinse your seeds, dump the water off, and let it set for the day. And in under a week, you have a whole quart jar of sprouts. So easy, very good for you. This is my milk kefir. So this isn't quite ready to strain. It's pretty runny yet, so I'm just gonna leave this for a few more hours. This is another routine that I really wanna keep more on top of in these colder months. This is actually a routine that I stayed on top of during the summertime, just simply because this is the only form of milk that doesn't make me and my daughter feel yucky. We do eat a little bit of cheese and butter here and there if we're cheating, but for the most part, we have dairy out of our diets for now. And this is one way that we can still get our dairy in and get the beneficial nutrients from it without actually feeling sick. So I guess something with these kefir grains eats the stuff out of the milk that's hard for us to digest. So real quick dairy update. I went off of dairy pretty much completely, still a little bit of butter and cheese here and there if I'm cheating. And I'm actually feeling really good, which is hard for me to say because I really love dairy. I don't want to be off of it. One thing that I noticed almost right away when I went off of dairy was that my joint pain went away. I had these like cysts on my wrists, and I also had joint pain in other places like my shoulder, and all of that pain went away completely within a week. And I noticed I had some changes, positive changes in my skin, changes in my appetite. All of a sudden I was starving hungry all the time. And so even though it's really hard to be off of dairy, I haven't been posting pictures of matchas and coffees or anything on Instagram lately because honestly, I was just struggling with them because they didn't taste as good as they used to. I'm slowly starting to acclimate to almond milk and coconut cream and some stuff like that, kind of figuring out what I like. I don't know where this all is gonna take me, but for now I'm off dairy and I am feeling really good. I'm still hoping that sheep's milk will work for me, but we're just gonna have to experiment. We're just gonna have to see. This is our first week of homeschool. I do homeschool from roughly October through May. We have a shorter school season so that it doesn't interfere with the gardening and preserving season. I don't talk much about homeschool on this channel because while I've homeschooled for 5 years now, I don't really think of myself as a homeschool guru. I don't geek out over different curriculum or get excited about trying all kinds of new things. I keep it really simple. I've stuck with Masterbooks curriculum for 5 years now, and I really enjoy it and use it for every single subject. People tell me that with our lifestyle, our kids are being educated all the time, and I do agree with that, but I also want my kids to have a good solid foundation in grammar, reading and spelling, and math. I'm not against my kids having to sit down, learn to focus, and do some worksheets. We usually spend around an hour and a half to 2 hours doing schoolwork, and then my kids do some math flashcards and read on their own every afternoon during their quiet time. I take homeschooling very seriously because I was given a solid education, and I've been so grateful for it over and over again, and I just want to give that gift to my kids as well.
I've been hoping to come out here and till this up and plant a cover crop before it's too late, but this is still really wet, which is really weird to say since just like what, A couple weeks ago, we were talking about it being way too dry out here. We weren't getting any rain. All of a sudden we got lots of rain because of the hurricane, I guess. Thankfully, we're not dealing with a lot of the flooding and stuff that other people have been dealing with. Really feel bad for them. Our whole pond is overflowed.
There went the bees.
We needed no just in case cover.
There goes the power pole. It's washed away concrete.
It's supposed to be nice for the next week or so though, so hopefully next week we can plant this cover crop so we can get it done before it's too late, so it has time to grow. While we're out here in the garden, let's go see if there's a Jimmy Nardello pepper for me to pick. Michelle left a few pepper plants in because they were still bearing, so she's been picking a few here and there. I don't see any on this side. Basically done. These things are so good. They're really sweet, and if they get really ripe, like a little more red and ripe than this one, they taste like really fruity. Michelle has been talking about the shifts for her with the changing season. For me, not a lot has shifted yet. I still have the cow out there. The chickens are still out on pasture. They're not moved into hoop house yet. And with the cow though, I have started feeding hay, as you know if you've watched the last few of our videos, because of the drought we had. Just ran out of grass, which now that's been raining, the grass is actually really growing, getting green. So I'm hoping that I'll actually be able to put him out in the pasture a little bit more. But I have been getting hay, had to go get some last night. I'll roll some footage of that right now. I keep my hay at my father-in-law's because I don't have a big enough barn. But this works. It just means that right now with only having Hero, I just need to come here like every few weeks or so, get a pickup load of hay, stack it in my barn. I've got enough room to do that. Just don't have enough room to store a lot. I was really wanting to get some round bales, but where I usually get them, the guy I get them from, doesn't have enough for me this year. So I'm gonna be feeding square bales, at least for now. I've got a decent amount left over from last year here at my father-in-law's, so I'll be able to use this for a while, and then I have somebody else that I get hay from that's gonna have some more square bales. And I have somebody else that I get hay from that's gonna have some more square bales for me that I can pick up later this fall. So it looks like I should still be able to get enough hay, just won't be the round bales, which round bales are so nice to feed because you just roll them out there. They sit there, cows eat them, don't got to do anything. These square bales, I'm gonna have to go out there every day and feed, but it won't be too bad. My routine right now is consisting a lot of just getting a lot of editing and stuff done for these videos, and then trying to work on my office in about every spare minute that I've got. This office really needs to get done before winter. I'm trying as hard as I can, and just hard to find the time for it, but we're just finding that as the kids are getting older, we're needing more and more space. I've got all the wires pulled in here, insulation in the ceiling's done. Basically now I just need to do a couple little bracing stuff here and there, and then stuff the insulation in. It's ready for drywall, flooring, trim. And I think I'm ready to move in. I told Michelle if I would just take a couple weeks off of doing anything else, I could probably get it done. But with everything else that I've got to do, it might be a month or two yet at least.
Give it maybe a 5 out of 10. It's a little bit after 3 o'clock and my bread is very ready to get shaped and put into pans. It overproved a tiny bit, but it's okay, it'll be fine. We've really been liking a cinnamon sugar loaf lately. It just tastes really good, especially in the fall. for a nice piece of toast or something. So I'm gonna do 1 loaf like that today. There's not an exact recipe for this. I just spread some coconut oil onto the dough with some brown sugar and cinnamon and roll it right up. Brown sugar is not something that I keep on hand, so I just mix a little bit of molasses with evaporated cane juice sugar and I make my own brown sugar. Tastes really, really rich and good. As I mentioned in last week's video, I could still be doing some gardening in our zone this time of the year. I do have experience with fall gardening since I used to do it when we sold produce at farmers market. I used to do several succession plantings of carrots, green beans, lettuce, onions, and so on in order to have a steady supply of fresh produce, which was great, but it made for a much more intense gardening experience. I got crops out as early as possible in the spring and also kept them out as late as possible in the fall, which meant I had to keep a close eye on the weather daily to watch for frosts and freezes. In the event of a freeze, I would go out and cover all of my crops with blankets, then I'd uncover them when the sun came out. It was always this niggling extra thing in the back of my mind, and it caused me so much stress to the point that I got burned out and didn't feel like gardening anymore. Oh yeah. I didn't remember that I was being filmed. Possibly the best drink I've made yet with almond juice. I'm still a little bitter, honestly.
That's actually good.
It was through this experience of extreme burnout that I realized that in order for gardening to be sustainable for me, I needed some space from it sometimes. And this is actually a truth that I found applies to so many other things in life other than gardening. I admit that I was a little bit skeptical about actually making these loofahs into scrubbers. I just didn't feel like they would work all that well. But we've been experimenting with them. We've made a couple of these sponges and we actually really like them. They work for cast iron, and the other thing that I've noticed is that they don't get stinky really fast like the gross microfiber sponges. We chose to do a square sponge and then sew the edges together as opposed to just cutting them in half and having a round sponge. It just kind of made more sense and we felt like they worked better that way. I washed these, dried them, and we got the seeds out, and so now they're just like this pretty white. They're very cool. We have not used these yet, like in the shower for our skin. That's what I was especially skeptical about. I don't know, I just didn't think it seemed like these would work that well on your skin, but now that I've been using them to wash dishes, they really soften up when you put hot water and soap on them. I could totally see using these on your skin. I just cut these open and then fold them in half and sew the edges together. I do trim them up just a tiny bit just to make so that they're a little bit square. I'm not a perfectionist, but I do like things to look decent. This is a really good project for kids to do. It gives them something to do with their hands on those rainy days when they can't be outside playing anymore. Open up the window. I'm breathing in the last of September. I can feel the wind blow, and the late summer sky is like a giant ember. Everything is turning into gold when the autumn leaves are playing chase. It puts a smile up on my face. It's been about 2.5 hours and this bread is beautiful and ready to be baked. It's crazy because some days it just rises so much faster than others. Sometimes it takes until 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, but this is done by 6 o'clock. So I bake this bread for 35 minutes exactly at 370 degrees in my convection oven. Some days I do 6 loaves of bread at a time. Today I only felt like I had time for 3, but it is definitely more efficient to do 6 at a time.